What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Wildcat Cave. Coach Cal has a problem. We're at the end of May, and we have no clue who is going to be on the roster this year. Right now, we know that we have 7 guys for sure that will be on campus in the fall. 5 are freshmen, and the other 2 averaged 8 minutes a game and only 2.5 points last year. The entire program seems to be complete chaos, and we play in Canada in less than 2 months. Is it time for Kentucky basketball to hit the panic button? Or does Coach Cal have everything under control? Today, we're going to talk about exactly that. Really quick, guys, make sure you're subscribed both here and on TikTok. The link is in the description for the TikTok, but for real, if you aren't already subscribed here on YouTube, make sure you do that right now. It doesn't cost you a single thing, and it helps the channel out more than you know. Also, we have set a date and time for the live stream that we mentioned in the last video. It'll be on Monday, June 5th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. By that time, whoever is going through the draft process right now will have made their choice, and we will, at the very least, know who is going pro, who's returning, or possibly hitting the transfer portal. So be sure to set a reminder for that, or subscribe and click the notification bell so you're here for the live stream and you don't miss it. So what in the world is going on with UK basketball? In my opinion, there are 2 ways you can look at this. Option 1 is that it is complete disarray. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. We aren't attacking the transfer portal how we need. We aren't doing the things in NIL that it takes to get these high-level transfers. Option number 2 is that Cal is pulling all the strings behind the scenes. And while he may not have everything figured out, he has guys that maybe haven't even entered the portal or that we haven't heard about yet that he feels really solid about and will end up here and be good players. And that he already feels confident about who will and won't return for us. I'll quickly try to make the case for each of these arguments, and then I'll kind of tell you where I land on that panic meter. Go ahead and let me know in the comments where you fall on the panic scale as well. I'd like to see kind of where the fan base's mind is at right now. But to make the case for the first opinion that everything is chaos, you would say something like, well, obviously everything's a mess right now. We are taking a stance on NIL that no other major program in the country is taking by not offering recruits guaranteed money. It's the end of May, and we basically have half a team. None of them have really any experience whatsoever. And so far, Kentucky has swung and missed on every single major transfer that it's went after, starting with Hunter Dickinson, and then Kashad Johnson, and then a few other notable names we've heard about. Not only have they missed on major transfers, they've also done a really poor job of keeping the guys on the team from last year that they want to return. I don't know if anyone ever expected Severe back, but he got out of town in a hurry, immediately followed by CJ Frederick, Damian Collins, and the guy who was supposed to be our leader this year in Lance Ware, who, keep in mind, played high school ball with 2 of the incoming players this coming season. If you're on that side of the fence, you could also make the case that missing out on transfers and having a mass exodus of players from last year's team, especially when most of those guys went to programs to have the exact same role that they would have here, that it points to larger issues going on behind the scenes and with the program. Then you have issues of not knowing what Oscar's going to do. Chris Livingston is basically being forced out by Clutch. And now we have rumors of Antonio Reeves possibly hitting the transfer portal. And just to top things off, we're supposed to represent the USA in under 50 days. And right now, we don't have enough players to practice. So I know all of that seems pretty negative. I do think there's a large portion of our fan base who feels that way and is losing a lot of faith in Cal. Now, if you wanted to make the argument in defense of Cal, you could say that we have no reason to panic. Cal has never given us a reason not to trust him when it comes to obtaining talent. So far, Cal has done a pretty good job in years past when it comes to the transfer portal, specifically with grad transfers. And while the undergraduate transfer portal is closed, grad transfers have much more time to declare and commit. And Cal always ends up pulling a grad transfer who was on no one's radar and the fans knew nothing about until they commit, and then they usually end up pretty productive for us. Cal has always operated quietly, and while there may be more info out right now than he normally allows, he has proven time and time again that he consistently works behind the scenes to get the exact guys he wants 90% of the time. So yeah, he may have missed on Hunter Dickinson and Kashad Johnson, but it was all because Cal didn't go all in on those guys. How many times in the past have fans wanted a player, Cal backs off at them at the last second, and then that player later goes on to have issues at whatever school they decide to go to? Cal knows his guys and knows the kind of players that can succeed at Kentucky. And one of the big perks of being a blue blood is that we have the ability to be selective with who we get. And that's what all of this boils down to. We're still Kentucky, and players know that they can come here and make the same money that they can at any other program. And there's no reason to guarantee anyone money because we are Kentucky, and all of our fans are just completely overreacting. If you look at both of those arguments, you could see each point of view, and both have credible arguments, in my opinion. To me, the truth is kind of somewhere in the middle, but I lean a little more towards the first disarray option. I don't think we've hit full-blown panic mode, but I for sure think there's reason to be concerned. I can't think of a year when we've been this far into the offseason and don't at least know the majority of the roster. Now, if Reeves doesn't come back, I may hit full-blown panic mode, but we're not there yet. Right now, I think there are three main problems with the program that may explain why you basically have a skeleton crew going into June. Number one, it's our NIL strategy. It's extremely clear why Kansas got Hunter Dickinson. They offered him the most NIL money. I can see both sides of the NIL coin, though. On one hand, I don't love the idea of players just going to schools and demanding millions of dollars. Something about that feels really wrong to me, and it needs to be cleaned up by the NCAA. But while in theory I like Cal's approach of saying, we're the premier program in college basketball and I'm not getting into bidding wars with these other programs, we're Kentucky, we'll make you as much money here as anywhere, but I'm not guaranteeing anything to anyone. Just look at what our other guys made last year with national law firms and AT&T ads. I love that idea in theory, but I just don't know if that works in the transfer portal. It works great with high school elites because this is just a stepping stone for them to get to the NBA and make more money. But the majority of transfers are not NBA players, so they need to make their money now. And if other schools are guaranteeing money, then Cal needs to change his policy so we can also compete for these high-level college players. The second problem I see is that there are extremely obvious problems within the program. We've all heard the rumors. We've addressed some of the things here on the channel that went on behind the scenes last season. There are rumors that there was tension with Oscar and the team, all sorts of mysterious things around Severe. I think there was real friction between Cal and basically everyone near the program. Then it came out that TJ Beisner was leaving, and then it came out that he wasn't. Not to mention that UK's always been on top of guys announcing their decisions to stay or go. But instead, this year, it seemed like UK found out kind of when the fans did. Now in the postseason, we have a mass exodus of players to other lesser programs to essentially take the same role that they had here. That just doesn't make sense because you would think that you're going to make more money at Kentucky. You have a bigger platform here than anywhere else, and they still want to leave, which begs the question that what in the hell happened last season that forced everybody out? I think Lance Ware leaving is extremely telling because he was supposed to be the leader in the locker room, and he has a role here this coming year, especially with two former teammates coming in. And then just to up and go to Villanova, where he probably won't start there either, I don't know. And if Reeves doesn't come back, then I think it's very telling. He's a guy who would for sure, or at least should, start next season and played really, really well for us, and would likely have a decent bump in NIL money since he's going to be a familiar face with basically one of the few returning players of note. Finally, this is not a huge one in my opinion, but it could play a factor. When you bring in a class like we have coming in next season with 5 really high-rated dudes, mostly that all play different positions, it could be tough for big-time recruits to see Kentucky as a good fit when they have to fight an 18-year-old for playing time. Remember, these transfers are like 21, 22, 23 years old and don't have a ton of eligibility left. They want to go places where they are going to get a bunch of touches. When they look at Kentucky and there's already a 5-star guy at their position, they might start to look at other schools where they can start immediately. And while they might not win a championship or make millions at these other schools, they will be able to play 35 minutes a game and get up the shots that they want. Now, the reason I haven't completely smashed the panic button yet is because of exactly what I said earlier. I trust Cal. There are certainly issues, but Cal has yet to let me down when it comes to getting the right guys for his teams. Just because it isn't happening on my schedule doesn't mean it isn't happening, and Cal always pulls out guys that isn't on our radar, and they usually turn out okay for us. Now, time is winding down in a hurry, and I hope we get some good news soon. I just don't think it's fair to fully judge Cal until the final roster is set. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being full-blown panic, I'm about a 6 right now. I'm for sure not panicking, but maybe a little uncomfortable. If Reeves comes back, that number drops probably to about a 5. Oscar only affects my scale if he comes back. We expected him to leave, so if he does stay in the draft, it doesn't make me want to panic more, but if he comes back, my panic level drops to like a 2. I'm counting Chris Livingston as gone, so if he does affect my panic level, it's very similar to Oscar, that it's only if he comes back my panic goes down. I think that if we can get 2 of the 3 of those to come back, then we all feel a ton better. We look back at this video and we think how foolish it was to be worried at all. That is going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. By the time of the live stream on Monday, June 5th at 7:30, we will have a better idea of our roster. We can talk more about this, so make sure to tune in, subscribe to the channel, and comment how you feel about the offseason so far. I'll see you guys in the next video. Go Cats!